Okay, Graham Arnold, Craig Moore, thank you so much for joining us. Graham, you're of course the national team boss for Australia. Craig, you're one of our very own here at the Go Radio Football Show and former Australia and Rangers legend. But you two, of course, go way back, don't you?
We go too far back, I suppose. You know, he was a young kid when he came into the national team when I was an older player, and he ended up telling me what to do.
Mate, well, you got your own back, yeah. When you end up being on the coaching side, so I guess you got your own back.
Yeah, but you still knew more than us.
There's obviously just now there's quite a lot of Australian influence in our top flight, and you know that goes back to more than just current times, but just now with Ange Postecoglou taking the reins at Celtic, we've heard a lot from Craig on Ange, and of course you've worked alongside Ange as well, Graham.
Yeah, look, we've been competitors against each other for a long time when in clubland here in Australia, and obviously I've known Ange for a very, very long time, and he's obviously doing a fantastic job at Celtic, and he's doing Australia proud on the coaching front. It's obviously he's one of the first Australians ever to coach in the UK, and he's making a great pathway for a lot of coaches here in Australia. I think that a lot are undervalued here in Australia because we work in a salary cap system, and here in Australia where you've got to be real diligent with the money that you spend, because you get restricted in a squad numbers of 23 players. You're only able to work within a salary cap, so that really makes you and teaches you to really work hard in your recruitment policies, and obviously Ange is doing a fantastic job with that at Celtic.
Do you feel that sense as well, Craig, when you come over here, you're flying the flag for Australia as well?
As Graham said, the really important thing when we have people come out of Australia is that they do well, because the reality is, Joe, that whether it be coaches or whether it be players, that ability to be able to travel in Asia, which is obviously an opportunity for Australians, but in particular Europe, to really sort of like hit the decent levels. And then, with Graham sort of like being the national team coach, obviously puts the country in a very good position in terms of, that whole selection process, and to be able to assemble a really strong competitive squad, which in Asia now is massively required, because as Arnie knows, they're spending hand over fist. They're doing things correctly, and they're improving rapidly.
And you touched on there, Graham, as well. You've obviously been a competitor in the league against Ange. What's he like as a competitor?
Well, he's a winner. And, I think that's one of the strengths of the Australian mentality is winning at all costs, and having that winning mentality and passing that down to the players, and, and no excuses. You're playing on the same size pitch as the opposition. Everything is the same, the weather, the conditions, but it's all about belief, and it's all about, getting the best out of every player, and having your principles of the style of play that you want to play, and getting that across to the players, and most of all, getting the players to buy into that. And once you do that and get that, then you reap those rewards.
I think that's something we've seen already, and being very sure about his footballing philosophy. And it sounds like from what you're saying, that's been an attribute throughout his career, and he's managed to get this team to gel very quickly in a relatively short space of time.
Yeah, and look, that's one thing about Ange. He's, it's 24/7 football, and his attention to detail is what it's all about, and his passion for the game, and he doesn't listen to any outside noise. It's Ange has his way, and it's proven a great way. But as I said, it's he throws a lot of belief into the players, and he gets the players on board. And for me, that's one of the big things about football these days and elite sport is getting the players to buy into your philosophy and into the style that you want to play. And once that happens, and the players seem to play then with a lot more energy, a lot more freedom, and a lot more confidence, and then the results start to come.
Someone else that you know really well and that we are seeing now, Craig, as well, play arguably some of his best football under Ange is Tom Rogic. That must be incredibly encouraging for you as national team boss to see Tom flourish again.
Yeah, look, I've had a long relationship with Tommy. I got him from five-a-side football, indoor football from Canberra. He got recommended to me when I was coaching club football at Central Coast Mariners here in Australia. He was going to compete in the Nike Challenge, which was unidentified talent at that time. And he came across to the UK, so he played with me for about a few months. He came across to the UK, he got accepted, and I think it was Reading that was going to sign him. But he didn't have the passport to get into the UK at the time, and he came back to us and he played with me for a year at Central Coast, and then he moved to Celtic. I sold him to Celtic, I think it was in 13-14 or 12-13, when Neil Lennon was in charge, and Tommy obviously came across as a young kid, very inexperienced, but you can just see Tommy's always been a class act and a class player, and he's a player that can change a game at any stage, any time. And, he's shown this year, especially with a great energy, that, he's true rewards of what a great player he is and the impact he can have on the team.
His development, Craig, as well, has been an absolute pleasure to watch over here, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, like I said, Arnie knows him very, very well, as do I. And look, for a big lad, he's fantastic with his feet. He's very direct. Has the ability to go by players, but more importantly, he's up to double digits in terms of assists this season. Scored a few goals. So Arnie, he must be a player. In terms of form, he's at the very, very top. They got a good result. He got another assist against Hibs last night and Martin Boyle, Arnie. So I just wanted to ask you a question. I mean, you would be watching the Scottish Premier League a lot because we have 5 or 6 players here now from Australia. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the Scottish Premier League?
Mate, I think it's great for Australian players, Maury. Like even when you were a youngster and Tony Vidmar, Australian boys, Big Baduka when he went across to Celtic, Scotty McDonald, these guys that, a first step for a lot of them out of Australia into the Scottish Premier League it gives them into a football culture in Scotland with the amount of games it's played in Scotland. Yep. It really is a great first step for a lot of the players. Some obviously end up staying in Scotland and finish and playing their career there. A lot of them move on. Tommy's been one that's obviously been now for 9 years at Celtic, but, watching Cam Devlin, from last year already, playing Wellington Phoenix, playing in the A-League, I took him to the Olympics with us, that he's already grown in stature as a player. And that's a lot of that is just about more minutes on the pitch, more games a week, and playing in a football culture that's just, it's all about football. So, I see the Scottish Premier League as a great stepping stone for a lot of players, but also a great way out of Australia and into the big world of football in Europe.
Now, sorry, Joe. Arnie, just on that. I mean, you mentioned Cammy Devlin. Yep. I'm sure Joe will have a question on Riley McGree. Nathaniel Atkinson has just signed for Hearts. I mean, that Olympic age group that you had the boys with last year, how many other players within that squad do you believe can make that next step?
Another 6, Maury, another 5 or 6. I think that, it's why I took on the Olympic team, was to create depth for the Socceroos. And you'll probably see when the squad's announced this week, there's a good half a dozen boys from the Olympic squad that were in the Tokyo Olympic team that's already coming into the Socceroos. I think the Scottish fans will be excited by Nathaniel Atkinson. He's got a great winning mentality, great temperament. He's a great athlete that will only get better and better because, again, he didn't play much football over the last couple of years. But there's some other boys here still in Australia that I took to the Olympics that would be great assets for Scottish clubs and the next step for them. And as I said, it's already 6 or 7 boys have left Australia and have moved abroad. In Nathaniel, Cam Devlin, Riley McGree, now he's at Middlesbrough. Harry Suter, that obviously was at Stoke City, Alex Gersbach, Denny Jean-Roux. So there's already a good handful that have left from the Olympics, but I still believe there's a good another 5 or 6 boys here in Australia that could make that step as well.
Now, you mentioned there the squad announcement that's coming up, and I know there will be a lot of people eager to know if, for example, Tom Rogic will be available for that Old Firm match on the 2nd of February, and of course Martin Boyle too, who there's the Edinburgh Derby here. So I guess in anticipation of that, is there any indication that you could give us that of course Tom and Martin might be part of your plans?
Yeah, look, it's you know, it's not easy always for a national team coach, especially through this time where it's not a FIFA window in Europe, and you know, it's a FIFA ruling. It's an emergency window that they've put in for the Asian nations, CONMEBOL, and the African Nations Cup to get finished. So I need my best players, and the best players is Tommy Rogic is one, of course, and Martin Boyle is 2 from Hibs. And, you know, I've still got to do the final selection of the squad, and that will come on Thursday. But, you know, as I said, these are 2 World Cup qualifiers. They're 2 very important games, and I need my best players.
Arnie, how difficult is that in terms, obviously you're monitoring all the players and how they're doing it at their clubs. At the same time, you must be nervous that you're hoping that these players come through unscathed. You touched on the national team job. You only have them for a short period of time. That day-to-day interaction with the players and not knowing must be painful at times.
It's very painful, especially the last weekend just before the camp, because, you know, these days with, you know, limited travel, less flights available due to COVID, then the last camp we were getting players in on the late Tuesday night, Wednesday, so we're getting 1 training session and then we're having to play. But you know, all I can do there is really look at the players and their roles at their clubs and what they're doing with their clubs. We try and blend it all into one with what we're doing as a team, and just letting the boys go out and enjoy themselves and making sure their energy's right. But you know, at the moment you've got to probably select you know, an extended squad, especially with this COVID going around, and especially with what's in Australia, to make sure that we cover all bases.
I read an interview with you, Graham, a few years ago. We were talking about the Old Firm game and the questions that you get from both sides, Celtic and Rangers, about who you're calling up, when you're calling them up, and you feel that intensity for over one game, you know, from the other side of the world.
Well, I don't get those call-ups anymore from Rangers. Because we don't have any players at Rangers anymore, and they're only at Celtic. But it used to be Rangers all the time. But look, it's one of the biggest derbies in the world, you know, and here in Australia, there's so many Scottish people and that are always looking for that one game. I went out one night here in Australia, and I was sitting having a beer, and a guy came over to me and said, "Mate, here's a beer." And I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "What?" I said, "Thanks, mate. What's that for?" He said, "If you don't pick Tommy Rogic to not play against Rangers, right?" He says, "Then I'll buy you the beer." And I said, "Well, Tommy's coming." He says, "Well, I'll take my beer back off you then." And that's how important it still is here in Australia, the derby.
It's incredible. It really is, and it's so far-reaching, and it's great to have that, to know that sort of happens the world over, and people are aware of it. But also, there's a complete respect that you need your best players, as you say, and they are at the moment. Some of them are in Tom Rogic and Martin Boyle. You touched on Cammy Devlin at Hearts too, and Nathaniel, who they've just signed. But I think Cammy's just played at under 23s, hasn't he? Is he a player that could be close to a cap for the senior squad?
Yeah, look, he's on the list. He's on the extended list, and you know, the kid is doing exceptionally well. As I said, I'll finalise the squad on Thursday. Nathaniel Atkinson has obviously just got the Hearts, and he hasn't had many match minutes over the last month, so we'll have a good close look at that. But yeah, look, Maynard Brewer in goals at Ross County's doing well as well. Matt Miller as well, you know, so. You know, some of the boys over there are doing fantastic, and you know, we're keeping our eye on them every week.
Now, Craig touched on it earlier. Another player I wanted to ask you about was Riley McGree. Ange Postecoglou said he was a player that he was interested in. He has that connection with him. Obviously, he went to Middlesbrough. We know that now. What was your take on that situation?
No, look, to be honest, it was exciting if he had gone to Celtic to be with Ange and Ange knowing exactly the way that Riley plays. And Riley's a very, very similar player to Tommy Rogic.
Yeah.
You know, same style, left foot, likes to play on the right side, an 8 or a 10 that can create things. And, you know, as I said, Ange, it would have been, you know, a great move for Riley to go to Celtic. But, you know, the kid's decided to go to Middlesbrough. That's also a great move for the kid. And, you know, most important thing is the kid is playing football regularly and in a high standard. And I think he'll only get better and better.
And in terms of your own career, you've been linked with a few jobs in the UK in the past. Is that something you'd still like to conquer down the line?
Oh yeah, look, it's you know, something that is a dream for me, is to eventually one day to get across to Europe. You know, I've been in Australia for a long time, but also I've experienced, you know, being able to be an assistant to Gus Hiddink, Pim Verbeek, and you know, and coach at 2 Olympic Games, and now being involved with the national team as a head coach. And you know, it's, you know, sitting here in Australia and always wanting to be in Europe and the UK is something that I'd dream about. So it's something that I'd really love to do in the future. But at the moment, I've got my full focus on the Australian national team and making this World Cup to Qatar and fulfilling the dreams of all those kids that want to play in Qatar and at the World Cup. So it's one step at a time, but it's something, yes, definitely, that I'd be keen on in the future.
Graham, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, you joining us tonight. All the best with those upcoming qualifiers. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you both today. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Maury.
Cheers, Arnie. Top man.
Okay.